I stopped coming home 3 weeks ago. Not dramatically. Not with a slammed door or a fight. I just didn't return one night. Then another. Then another. And she never noticed. I used to think love was loud, arguments, apologies, passion that burned so bright it left scars. But I learned the hard way that love doesn't always die in flames. Sometimes it dies in silence. In the slow, suffocating realization that the person who promised forever has already moved on, while you're still holding the door open, waiting for them to walk back through. It started small. The way she'd slip her wedding ring off before meeting her friends. The way she'd laugh a little too hard at jokes I didn't hear. The way she stopped asking where I was, what I felt, if I was okay. I told myself it was nothing. That marriage had phases. That love evolved. But evolution isn't supposed to feel like erosion. So I tested it. I stayed late at work. Then later. Then I didn't come home at all. I waited for the call, the text, the panic. I waited for her to notice that the man she married had become a ghost in his own life. She didn't. And that's when I realized I hadn't disappeared. I had been erased long before I ever left. I met her in a coffee shop on a rainy October morning. The kind of morning where the sky felt too heavy to hold itself up. The rain came down in sheets, drumming against the glass windows like it had something urgent to say. Most people rushed past with umbrellas and hurried steps, but I had nowhere to be. So I stepped inside, shook the water from my coat, and ordered something I didn't really want. That's when I saw her. She was sitting by the window, perfectly still in a world that wouldn't stop moving. Her hair fell over her shoulder in dark, silken waves, and her fingers moved across a worn notebook with the kind of focus that made everything else disappear. She was sketching something, lines that didn't make sense to me, but clearly made sense to her. The rain blurred the glass behind her, turning the street outside into a watercolor smudge. But she didn't seem to care. She didn't glance at her phone. Didn't check the time. She just existed. Untouchable. Perfect. Lost in her own world. I didn't mean to stare. But I couldn't look away. And then, as if she felt my eyes on her, she looked up. Our gazes met. And she smiled. Not the polite smile strangers give each other. Not the shy, uncertain smile of someone caught off guard. She smiled like she'd been waiting for me. Like this moment had been written long before either of us walked into that cafe. "Do you believe in fate?" she asked. Her voice was soft, but it cut through the noise of the espresso machine and the low hum of conversation. It wasn't a question. It was an invitation. I laughed, mostly because I didn't know what else to do. I didn't, I said. Until now. She tilted her head, studying me like I was one of her sketches. "Come sit with me." It wasn't a request. It was a certainty. So I did. I crossed the cafe, my heart doing something strange in my chest, and sat down across from her. Up close, she was even more devastating. Her eyes were dark and endless, like she could see straight through me. Her hands were stained with charcoal and paint, and there was something raw and real about that, something that made her feel more alive than anyone I'd ever met. "I'm Elena," she said, extending one of those paint-stained hands. "Adrian," I replied, taking it. Her grip was firm. Warm. And when she pulled away, I felt the absence of it like a chill. "What were you drawing?" I asked, nodding toward the notebook. She glanced down at it, then back at me. "A feeling." "A feeling?" "Yeah." She flipped the notebook around so I could see. It was abstract, lines and shadows and shapes that didn't form anything concrete. But somehow, it felt like loneliness. Like longing. Like something I couldn't name but had felt my entire life. "I don't paint things," she explained. "I paint emotions. The way a moment feels, not the way it looks." I stared at the sketch, then at her. "That's beautiful." "What about you?" she asked, leaning forward. "What do you do?" "I'm an architect," I said. "I build things. Buildings, mostly. Things that are supposed to last." She smiled at that, really smiled, like I'd said something profound. "Then we're opposites." "How so?" "You build," she said, tracing a finger along the edge of her coffee cup. "I capture what fades." I should have heard the warning in those words. I should have realized that someone who spent their life capturing fleeting moments wasn't someone who believed in permanence. But I was already falling. I was already imagining a future where her chaos and my order somehow created balance. "Maybe opposites are supposed to find each other," I said. She looked at me for a long time, her dark eyes searching mine. Then she reached across the table and touched my hand. It was a small gesture. Her fingers barely grazed mine. But it felt like the world shifted. Maybe, she whispered. We stayed in that cafe for hours. The rain didn't stop. The world outside kept moving. But inside, in that small corner by the window, time felt suspended. We talked about everything, art and architecture, dreams and failures. The way the rain sounded different depending on where you were standing. She told me she'd spent her whole life searching for something she couldn't name. I told her I'd spent mine building walls around myself because I didn't know how to let anyone in. Then maybe, she said, her voice soft and certain, we found each other at exactly the right time. I believed her. God, I believed her. When we finally left, the rain had slowed to a drizzle. She walked beside me, close enough that our shoulders brushed, and I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Hope. Same time next week, she asked, turning to face me. Same time, I said. She smiled, kissed my cheek, and walked away. And as I stood there, watching her disappear into the grey October morning, I thought I'd found the one thing I'd been searching for my entire life. I thought I'd found home. The first year felt like a dream I didn't want to wake from. It wasn't perfect. It was messy and chaotic and nothing like the orderly life I'd built for myself. But it was hours. And that made it perfect in a way nothing else ever had been. We moved in together after 6 months. It happened slowly, the way most important things do. She started leaving clothes at my apartment. Then a toothbrush. Then her paints and canvases. One day, I looked around and realized she'd claimed every corner of my space, and I didn't mind. If anything, I loved it. She painted in the living room, her easel set up by the window where the light was best. I sketched blueprints at the kitchen table, my drafting tools spread out in organized chaos. Our lives bled into each other in the most beautiful way, her spontaneity, my structure, somehow creating a rhythm that felt like a song only we could hear. She used to wake me up at 3 a.m. just to show me a finished painting. Look, she'd whisper, shaking my shoulder gently, her eyes glowing with that manic creative energy I'd come to adore. I painted us. I'd sit up, groggy and half asleep, and she'd hold the canvas in front of me. It was always abstract, swirls of color and shape that didn't form anything recognizable. But somehow, I always understood. This one was two shapes intertwined, inseparable, vibrant. One was sharp and angular, the other soft and flowing. They didn't look alike, but they fit together in a way that felt inevitable. It's perfect, I'd say, kissing her forehead. You always say that, she'd laugh, but her smile would linger, soft and grateful. Because it always is. Those were the good days. The days when I believed we were building something unbreakable. The days when I thought love was enough to hold two people together, even when they were opposites. I proposed on the anniversary of the day we met. I took her back to the same coffee shop, on the same kind of rainy October morning. She didn't know what I was planning. She just thought we were being sentimental. We ordered the same drinks. Sat in the same spot by the window. And when she started sketching in that same worn notebook, I reached across the table and took her hand. Elena, I said. She looked up, startled. I got down on one knee. Her eyes went wide. Her hand flew to her mouth. And I saw something in her face I'll never forget, pure, unfiltered joy. You taught me that love doesn't have to make sense, I said, my voice steady even though my heart was pounding. It just has to be real. And this, is the realest thing I've ever known. I pulled out the ring. Simple. Elegant. Timeless. Marry me. She didn't hesitate. Yes, she breathed, tears streaming down her face. Yes. 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 I slid the ring onto her finger, and she pulled me up and kissed me like the world was ending. Like we were the only two people who'd ever mattered. And for a while, I believed we were. She wore that ring like it was part of her body. She'd twist it absently when she was thinking, catch the light on it when she gestured, hold it up to admire it when she thought I wasn't looking. I never want to take it off, she told me once, curled up against my chest in the dark. Then don't, I whispered. I won't, she promised. But promises, I've learned, are just words we say before we break them. The cracks started small. So small I didn't even notice them at first. She stopped waking me up to show me her paintings. She started staying up later, disappearing into her art in a way that felt less like passion and more like escape. I'd come home from work and find her standing in front of a canvas, staring at it like it held the answers to questions she wouldn't ask me. "Everything okay?" I'd say. "Yeah," she'd reply, not looking at me. Just thinking. I didn't push. I told myself she was just in a creative phase. That artists needed space. That love meant giving someone room to breathe. But space, I was learning, can become distance. And distance can become a canyon you don't know how to cross. One night, I woke up at 3 a.m. Not because she'd woken me to show me her work, but because the bed beside me was empty. I found her in the living room, sitting on the floor in front of a blank canvas. She wasn't painting. She was just staring. "Elle?" I said softly. She didn't respond. "Elena." She blinked, as if coming back from somewhere far away. "Sorry. I didn't mean to wake you." "You didn't. Are you okay?" "I'm fine," she said. But her voice was flat. Hollow. I sat down beside her, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. She leaned into me, but it felt mechanical. Like she was going through the motions. "Talk to me," I said. "There's nothing to talk about." "Then why do I feel like I'm losing you?" She pulled away, just slightly. "Just enough. You're not losing me. I'm right here." But she wasn't. Not really. And for the first time since I'd met her in that coffee shop, I felt afraid. Because love, I was learning, isn't a static thing. It doesn't stay still just because you want it to. It grows, or it withers. And ours. I didn't realize it was dying until I was already choking on the silence. It was small. So small I almost missed it. We were getting ready to meet her friends for brunch. It was one of those lazy Sunday mornings where the sun felt warm and forgiving, and everything should have felt easy. She was standing in front of the mirror, putting on her earrings, humming some tune I didn't recognize. I was tying my shoes when I noticed. Her left hand. Bare? The ring was missing. "Babe," I said carefully, trying to keep my voice light. "You forgot your ring." She glanced at her hand, then shrugged, like it was nothing. "Oh. Yeah, it feels tight lately. I'll wear it later." "Tight?" I repeated. "Yeah. I think my fingers are swollen or something." She turned back to the mirror, adjusting her hair. "It's not a big deal." I wanted to push. I wanted to ask when it started feeling tight, why she hadn't mentioned it before, why she wasn't wearing it now if it was just a sizing issue. But I didn't. I told myself it was nothing. That I was overthinking. That married couples didn't need to wear their rings every second of every day to prove their love. So I let it go. But at brunch, I couldn't stop thinking about it. We sat at a table with her friends, people I'd met a few times but never really connected with. They were artists, like her. Loud. Expressive. The kind of people who filled a room with energy and left you feeling drained. Elena was different around them. She laughed louder. Talked faster. Gestured wildly with her hands, her bare hands, and I watched the way the sunlight caught the absence of the ring. She didn't mention me once. Not when they asked what she'd been working on. Not when they talked about their lives, their projects, their plans. She didn't hold my hand. Didn't lean into me. Didn't even glance my way. I felt invisible. At one point, someone asked how long we'd been together. "A while," Elena said, waving her hand dismissively. Then she changed the subject. A while. Not, "We've been married for 2 years." Not, "This is my husband." Just, a while. I stared at her, waiting for her to correct herself. To clarify. To acknowledge me. She didn't. The rest of brunch passed in a blur. I barely touched my food. I just sat there, watching her be this version of herself I didn't recognize. This version that didn't need me. That didn't even seem to remember I was there. When we finally left, I was quiet. She didn't notice. She scrolled through her phone as I drove, occasionally laughing at something and showing it to me without explanation. I nodded, smiled, pretended I wasn't drowning. "Why didn't you wear your ring?" I finally asked, my voice carefully neutral. She sighed, not looking up from her phone. "Does it really matter? It's just jewelry." Just jewelry. Those 2 words hit me harder than any argument ever could. "It's not just jewelry," I said quietly. "It's a symbol. It means something." "To you, maybe," she said, still not looking at me. "But I don't need a ring to prove I'm married." "Then why do you take it off?" "I told you. It doesn't fit." "Then get it resized." I will. Eventually. When? She finally looked at me, her eyes sharp with irritation. Why are you making such a big deal out of this? Because you're acting like it doesn't matter, I said. Like we don't matter. That's not fair. Isn't it? I pulled into our driveway and turned off the engine. You didn't mention me once today. You didn't hold my hand. You didn't even introduce me as your husband. And when someone asked about us, you said a while like I'm some guy you're casually seeing. She stared at me, her jaw tight. You're overreacting. Am I? Yes. She opened the car door. I'm not going to apologize for having fun with my friends. You're being insecure. She got out and walked into the house, leaving me sitting alone in the car. I didn't follow her. I just sat there, staring at my own wedding ring, and felt something cold settle in my chest. Something that whispered, you're losing her. And I didn't know how to stop it. Weeks passed. Then months. And the ring never came back. She stopped wearing it altogether. Not just around her friends, around me, too. It sat on the bathroom counter for a while, gathering dust, and then one day it was gone. Tucked away in a drawer somewhere. Out of sight. Out of mind. When I asked about it, she said it didn't fit anymore. That she'd get it resized. She never did. Instead, she started going out more. Girls' nights. Art shows. Gallery openings. Dinners with people I didn't know at places I'd never been. She'd text me an hour before she left, casual and breezy, going out tonight. Don't wait up. And I wouldn't. Not because I didn't care. But because I'd learned that waiting for someone who doesn't want to be found is the loneliest thing in the world. She'd come home late, smelling like wine and laughter, and I'd be sitting in the dark, pretending I hadn't been counting the hours. You're still up? She'd ask, surprised. Like she'd forgotten I existed. Yeah, I'd say. How was your night? Good. She'd kick off her shoes, barely looking at me. I'm exhausted. I'm going to bed. And that would be it. No details. No stories. No invitation for me to be part of her world. I tried to talk to her. God, I tried. Is something wrong? I asked one night, after she came home at 2 a.m. for the third time that week. No. Why? Because you're never here anymore. I'm here right now. You know what I mean. She sighed, that familiar sound of exhaustion mixed with irritation. I've just been busy. I have a life outside of this apartment, you know. I know. Are we okay? Of course we're okay. She looked at me like I was being ridiculous. Why wouldn't we be? Because it doesn't feel like it. That's on you, then. She walked past me toward the bedroom. Don't project your insecurities onto me. I stood there, frozen, as her words sank in. Your insecurities. As if wanting to feel connected to your wife was a flaw. As if needing reassurance that your marriage wasn't falling apart was weakness. Another night, I asked if she still loved me. Of course I do, she said, not looking up from her phone. Don't be needy. Needy. That word cut deeper than any fight ever could. Because it wasn't just a dismissal. It was a judgment. It told me that my need for connection, for intimacy, for her was a burden. So I stopped asking. I stopped waiting up when she went out. I stopped trying to have conversations that she clearly didn't want. I stopped reaching for her hand when we sat together on the couch. I stopped trying to hold on to someone who was already halfway out the door. Instead, I stayed late at the office. At first, it was an excuse. A way to avoid coming home to an empty apartment. A way to postpone the ache of realizing she didn't miss me. But then it became something more. I threw myself into work. I took on bigger projects, longer hours. I told myself I was giving her space. But really, I was testing her. Would she notice? Would she care? The answer, every single night, was the same. No. I came home at midnight. Then 1 a.m. Then 2 a.m. And every time, the apartment was dark. She was asleep, or pretending to be. The space beside her in bed was cold. One night, I didn't come home until 4 a.m. I walked into the bedroom, exhausted, and looked at her sleeping form. She was curled on her side, facing away from me, her breathing slow and even. I stood there for a long time, just watching her. And I realized something that shattered me. She didn't even know I'd been gone. The next morning, I waited. I made coffee. I sat at the kitchen table and waited for her to wake up, to ask where I'd been, to show even the smallest flicker of concern. She walked into the kitchen, yawning, and poured herself a cup. "Morning," she said. "Morning." She scrolled through her phone, sipping her coffee. "I was out late last night," I said, testing the waters. She hummed, not looking up. "Did you notice?" "Notice what?" "That I wasn't here." She finally glanced at me, her expression mildly confused. "I was asleep." "Why would I notice?" "Because I'm your husband." She rolled her eyes. "You're being dramatic again." And just like that, the conversation was over. I stopped coming home early after that. I stopped trying to be present in a life where I was clearly just background noise. And the worst part? She didn't even notice. I found out by accident. It was a Friday night. I was working late again, not because I had to, but because going home felt like walking into a mausoleum. I was scrolling mindlessly through my phone during a break when I saw it. A photo. One of Elena's friends had posted it on social media. The caption read, "So proud of my girl and her new Muse artist palette sparkles, " I almost scrolled past it. But then I saw her. Elena. At a gallery opening I didn't know about. Wearing a dress I'd never seen. Her hair done, her smile bright, her arm wrapped around someone. A man. Tall. Confident. The kind of guy who looked like he belonged in her world, artistic, effortless, the type who probably quoted poetry and knew the right wines. They were standing close. Too close. And she wasn't wearing her ring. I stared at that photo until my eyes burned. I zoomed in. I examined every detail. The way his hand rested casually on her waist. The way she leaned into him, comfortable and familiar. The way she looked happy genuinely, radiantly happy in a way I hadn't seen in months. Her new muse. The words echoed in my head, mocking me. I called her. It rang. And rang. And rang. No answer. I texted, "Where are you?" 3 hours later, she replied, "Out with friends. Be home late." That was it. No explanation. No apology. No acknowledgement that she'd been at an event with another man. I sat there, staring at my phone, and felt something inside me break. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Just, quietly. Completely. That night, I didn't go home. I checked into a hotel. A sterile, impersonal room with white sheets and a view of the highway. I sat on the edge of the bed and waited. Surely she'd call. Surely she'd realize I wasn't there and panic. Surely the absence of her husband, the man she'd promised forever to, would mean something. But my phone stayed silent. I checked it obsessively. Every few minutes. Every notification made my heart lurch. But it was never her. I barely slept. I kept seeing that photo. Kept imagining her laughing with him, talking with him, being present with him in ways she hadn't been with me in months. The next morning, I checked my phone again. No missed calls. No texts. Just a new post from Elena. A photo of her breakfast, some artfully plated avocado toast and coffee. The caption read, "New beginnings sun with rays **. New beginnings. I stared at those words until they blurred. And that's when I knew. I wasn't her husband anymore. I was just a memory she hadn't bothered to delete yet. I checked our shared bank account. She'd used it that morning, coffee shop, $12. The day before, dinner, $87. Art supplies, $143. She was living her life. Moving forward. Building something new. And I wasn't part of it. I drove by the house later that day. I don't know why. Maybe I wanted to see if she'd noticed I was gone. Maybe I wanted to feel something other than this hollow ache. Her car was in the driveway. The lights were on. I parked across the street and just watched. Through the window, I could see her. She was in the living room, painting. Headphones in. Lost in her world. She looked fine. Better than fine. She looked free. And I sat there, watching the woman I'd married, and realized something that shattered me completely. She didn't need me. She never had. I stopped going home. Not forever. I didn't know if it was forever. But I couldn't go back. Not yet. Maybe not ever. I stayed at the hotel for a few days. Then a friend offered me his couch. Then I found a small apartment across town, One of those generic one-bedrooms with beige walls and fluorescent lighting. It felt appropriate. A blank space for a blank version of myself. I packed a bag. Just the essentials. Clothes. Toiletries. My laptop. I went back to the house when I knew she'd be out. I moved through the rooms like a ghost, taking only what was mine, leaving no trace. I left my key on the kitchen counter. No note. No explanation. I just left. And I waited. Surely she'd notice. Surely she'd come home, see the key, and realize I was gone. Surely she'd call. Text. Panic. Surely I mattered enough for her to care. Days passed. Then a week. Then 2 weeks. My phone stayed silent. I checked our shared bank account obsessively. She was still using it. Coffee, $8. Groceries, $54. Art supplies, $120. Dinner, $93. She was living her life like I'd never been part of it. Like I'd never existed at all. I drove by the house once. I told myself I wouldn't. I told myself it was pathetic, masochistic, pointless. But I did it anyway. It was evening. The lights were on. Her car was in the driveway. I parked down the street and watched. Through the window, I could see her. She was painting again. Headphones in. Swaying slightly to music I couldn't hear. She looked fine. No, she looked better than fine. She looked like someone who'd been set free from a burden she didn't know she was carrying. I sat there for an hour, watching her exist in a world where I didn't. And I realized something that shattered me. She didn't need me. She didn't miss me. She didn't even notice I was gone. I thought about all the times I'd waited for her. All the nights I'd sat in the dark, listening for her key in the lock. All the mornings I'd woken up alone and told myself it was fine, she was just busy, she still loved me. I thought about the ring she stopped wearing. The conversations she stopped having. The life she stopped including me in. And I understood. I hadn't disappeared 2 weeks ago when I packed my bag and left. I'd disappeared long before that. She'd erased me months ago, maybe even years ago. She'd just never told me. She'd let me stay in the margins of her life, a background character in a story that was no longer about us. And I'd let her. I'd waited. I'd hoped. I'd told myself things would get better, that love was about patience, that marriage meant fighting for each other. But you can't fight for someone who's already walked away. I drove back to my apartment that night and sat in the dark. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I didn't break things or scream or fall apart. I just sat there, staring at my phone, waiting for a call that would never come. And for the first time in years, I felt something other than hope. I felt clarity. This wasn't a rough patch. This wasn't a phase. This wasn't something we could fix with a conversation or a weekend away or couples therapy. This was the end. And it had been the end for a long time. I just hadn't been ready to see it. 3 weeks after I left, she finally texted. Not, where are you? Not, are you okay? Not, I miss you. Just, hey. Are you coming home soon? I need you to sign something. I stared at the message for a long time. Paperwork. She needed me for paperwork. Not because she'd noticed I was gone. Not because she was worried or scared or hurt. Because she needed a signature. I didn't reply. An hour later, my phone rang. Her name lit up the screen. My heart did something painful in my chest, hope mixed with anger mixed with exhaustion. I let it ring twice. Then I answered. Where the hell have you been? She asked. Her voice was sharp. Annoyed. Not worried. Not hurt. Annoyed. I've been gone, I said calmly. What? I left. 3 weeks ago. Silence. I could hear her breathing on the other end. Shallow. Confused. What do you mean, you left? I packed a bag. I took my things. I left my key on the counter. I stopped coming home. More silence. Are you serious right now? Yes. Why didn't you tell me? I laughed. It was bitter and broken. I wanted to see if you'd notice. Notice what? That I was gone, Elena. That your husband had disappeared from your life. She stopped. I could hear her pacing. That's insane. You're being dramatic. Dramatic. There it was again. That word. I disappeared for 3 weeks, I said, my voice eerily calm. And you didn't even realize. You didn't call. You didn't text. You didn't wonder where I was. You just kept living your life. Like I didn't exist. I've been busy. Busy forgetting I exist. That's not fair. Isn't it? I could feel something cold and sharp settling in my chest. Tell me, Elena. When was the last time you asked how I was? When was the last time you looked at me, really looked at me? When was the last time you wore your wedding ring? She didn't answer. I've been erasing myself from your life for months, I continued. Staying late at work. Coming home later and later. Waiting for you to care. And you didn't. So I left. And you still didn't care. Until you needed something from me. You're twisting this. Am I? My voice cracked. You texted me because you need me to sign something. Not because you missed me. Not because you were worried. Because you need me for paperwork. Silence. Then, quietly, what do you want me to say? I wanted you to notice, I whispered. That's all I ever wanted. I wanted to matter to you. I wanted to feel like I was more than just furniture in your life. You do matter. No, I don't. I closed my eyes. If I mattered, you would have noticed I was gone. If I mattered, you would have called. You would have cared. This isn't fair, she said again, and I could hear something in her voice now, defensiveness, maybe guilt. But not love. Never love. You're right, I said. It's not fair. But it's the truth. So what now, she asked. You're just done. I've been done for a long time, Elena. I just didn't realize it. She was quiet for a long moment. Then, what do you want me to do? Nothing. My voice was steady now. Certain. I don't want anything from you anymore. Don't do this. You already did it. I took a breath. You stopped wearing your ring. You stopped seeing me. You built a life that didn't include me. I just finally had the courage to walk away from it. Please. I hung up. My hands were shaking. My heart was pounding. But I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Relief. She called back. I didn't answer. She texted. I didn't read it. She called again. And again. I turned off my phone. And for the first time in years, I let myself breathe. I rebuilt myself in the space she left behind. It didn't happen overnight. Healing never does. But slowly, piece by piece, I started to remember who I was before I became someone who waited in the dark. I threw myself into work. Not as an escape this time, but as a purpose. I took on bigger projects. I traveled for clients. I stayed late not because I was avoiding an empty apartment, but because I was building something. Something mine. My boss noticed. You've been on fire lately, he said during a quarterly review. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. I smiled. Just finding my rhythm. But it wasn't just work. I started running in the mornings. Something I hadn't done since college. At first, I could barely make it a mile. But every day, I went a little farther. Pushed a little harder. Running became meditation. A way to clear my head. A way to prove to myself that I was still here, still capable, still alive. I started reading again. Books I'd meant to read for years but never had time for. Fiction. Philosophy. Memoirs of people who'd rebuilt themselves from nothing. I went to a coffee shop one Sunday morning, not the one where I'd met Elena, but a different one. I sat by the window with a book and a cup of coffee, and I realized something. I was okay. Not happy. Not yet. But okay. And okay was a start. People noticed. A colleague asked me out for coffee. Not a date, just coffee. We talked about work, about life, about the weird liminal space of being in your 30s and not knowing what comes next. It felt good. Normal. Human. An old friend from college reached out. We hadn't spoken in years. He said he'd been thinking about me, wanted to catch up. We met for drinks. We laughed about old memories. We talked about where we'd been, where we were going. He didn't ask about Elena. I didn't bring her up. And that felt like progress. Weeks turned into months. I moved out of the generic apartment and into a place that felt like mine. I bought furniture. Hung art on the walls. Cooked meals that weren't just cereal or takeout. I wasn't the same man who sat in that hotel room, staring at his phone, waiting for a text that never came. I was someone new. Someone who didn't need external validation to feel whole. Someone who'd learned that being alone wasn't the same as being lonely. And one day, I realized something. I didn't miss her. I missed the idea of her. The version I'd built in my head, the woman who loved me back, who saw me, who chose me every day. But that woman never existed. Elena had shown me exactly who she was. She'd shown me with every ring she didn't wear, every night she didn't come home, every conversation she didn't have. I just refused to see it. I clung to the fantasy because letting go felt like failure. But staying would have been the real failure. Staying would have meant accepting that I didn't deserve to be seen, to be valued, to be loved the way I loved. And I did deserve that. It took losing everything to realize it. But I did. I ran into an old mentor one afternoon. She was someone I'd worked with years ago, someone who'd always believed in me. "You look different," she said, studying me. "Different how?" "Lighter," she said. "Like you're not carrying the weight of the world anymore." I smiled. "Maybe I'm not." "Good," she said. "You deserve to be free." Free. That word stayed with me. Because that's what I was. Not broken. Not bitter. Free. Free from the weight of trying to hold on to someone who didn't want to be held. Free from the belief that I needed to be worthy. Free from the version of myself that had accepted crumbs and called it love. I was building something new now. Not for her. Not to prove anything. Just for me. And that felt like the most radical act of self-love I'd ever committed. 6 months after I left, I sent her a letter. Not an email. Not a text. A real, handwritten letter. I bought nice stationery, cream-colored, simple, elegant. I sat at my kitchen table with a pen in hand, and I let myself feel everything I'd been holding back. Not anger. Not bitterness. Just truth. Dear Elena, you stopped wearing your ring. I stopped coming home. You never noticed. And that told me everything I needed to know. I don't hate you. I don't even blame you, really. You were honest in your own way. You just showed me through your actions what you couldn't say with words, that you didn't want this anymore. That I was part of a life you'd already moved on from. I just wish you'd told me. I wish you'd sat me down and said, "This isn't working. I don't love you the way I used to." It would have hurt. God, it would have shattered me. But it would have been kinder than what you did. You let me disappear slowly. You let me become invisible. You let me sit in the dark, waiting for a version of you that didn't exist anymore. And I let you. I let you treat me like I didn't matter because I was too afraid to walk away. I was too afraid to admit that the woman I married wasn't the woman standing in front of me anymore. Or maybe she never was. Maybe I fell in love with a moment. A feeling. A version of you I wanted so badly to be real that I ignored every sign that it wasn't. You painted emotions, you said. You captured what fades. And I guess I was one of those things. But I'm done fading now. I'm done being invisible. I'm done waiting for someone who was never going to choose me. I loved you, Elena. I loved you in a way that was all-consuming, self-destructive, desperate. But that kind of love isn't sustainable. And it's not enough. Love has to be mutual. It has to be reciprocal. It has to be seen. And you didn't see me. Maybe you couldn't. Maybe I expected too much. Maybe we were always going to end up here. But I'm not angry anymore. I hope you find what you're looking for. I hope your new muse gives you everything I couldn't. I hope you create beautiful things and live a beautiful life. But I'm done being part of it. I'm done being erased. You taught me something important, even if you didn't mean to. I don't need someone to complete me. I just need someone who sees me. And you didn't. So I'm walking away. Not with bitterness. Not with regret. But with clarity. Take care of yourself. Adrian. I read it 3 times before I sealed it. Then I addressed it. Stamped it. Walked to the mailbox on the corner. I stood there for a moment, holding it, giving myself one last chance to change my mind. But I didn't. I dropped it in the slot. And I let go. Not just of the letter. But of her. Of us. Of the fantasy I'd been clinging to. I walked back to my apartment with my hands in my pockets, and I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Peace. A year later, I ran into her at a cafe. Not the one where we met. A different one. Smaller. Quieter. I was reading when I felt someone's eyes on me. I looked up, and there she was. Elena. She looked different. Older. Tired. Her hair wasn't as vibrant. Her eyes weren't as bright. She was sitting alone at a table by the window, holding a coffee cup with both hands like she was trying to warm herself. Our eyes met. For a second, neither of us moved. Then she stood. Hesitant. Uncertain. She walked over. "Hi," she said softly. "Hi." Silence. It wasn't comfortable. It wasn't hostile. It was just heavy. "Can I sit?" she asked. I nodded. She sat down across from me, and I saw it then, the cracks. The weight she was carrying. She looked like someone who'd been running and finally realized she had nowhere to go. "I got your letter," she said. I nodded. "Okay. You were right." Her voice was quiet. "About everything. I didn't notice. I didn't see you. I was so caught up in my own world that I didn't realize I was losing you." "Yeah," I said. "I'm sorry." I looked at her. Really looked at her. The woman I'd loved. The woman I'd waited for. The woman who'd erased me. "Thank you," I said. She nodded, biting her lip. "Are you happy?" I thought about it. About the life I'd built in the years since I walked away. The work. The running. The friends. The mornings I woke up and didn't feel like I was suffocating. "Yeah," I said. "I am." She smiled. It was sad. Broken. "Good. I'm glad." Silence again. "Are you?" I asked. She hesitated. Then shook her head. "I don't know. I thought I would be. I thought, if I could just be free, if I could just focus on my art, I'd be happy. But I'm not. I'm just empty." I didn't say anything. "He left," she said quietly. "The guy from the gallery. He wasn't who I thought he was." "I'm sorry," I said. And I meant it. She looked at me, her eyes searching mine. "Do you ever think about us? About what we could have been?" "Sometimes," I admitted. "But not in the way you think. I don't wonder, what if? I just remember what was. And I accept that it's over." She nodded slowly. "I kept the painting. The one of us. I don't know why." I smiled faintly. "Maybe because you finally realized what you lost." Her eyes filled with tears. She didn't respond. I stood up, gathering my things. "Take care of yourself, Elena." She looked up at me, and I saw it, the regret. The understanding. The realization that some things, once broken, can't be fixed. "You too," she whispered. I walked out of the cafe and into the sunlight. I didn't look back. Because I'd learned something she never would. Love isn't about being needed. It's about being seen. And I'd finally learned to see myself. And that was enough.